Have you ever felt like you're running, but not moving forward, like you're doing everything right, but still feel empty inside? That's not failure. That's the pain of not knowing your why. When you discover your why, you stop chasing motivation and start living with meaning, because purpose isn't something you find in success. It's what gives success its meaning. Here will come a moment in your life when you'll ask yourself one simple question: why am I doing all of this? Not what you're doing, not how you're doing it, but why. Why do you wake up every morning and pour yourself into your work? Why do you chase goals, build dreams, and strive for more? Because motivation isn't a spark. It isn't a trick. It's not a playlist, a podcast, or a cup of coffee. It's fire, a purpose, a deep and unwavering reason that drives everything you do. That reason, that why, is the foundation of your success, your resilience, and your fulfillment. We live in a world obsessed with hustle. Everyone wants to know the secret to productivity. They hack to stay focused. The strategy to get ahead. But here's the truth: if you don't know why you're running, it doesn't matter how fast you go, you'll burn out, you'll break down, or worse, you'll succeed at the wrong thing. The core message: your why is your anchor. It's the root of real, lasting motivation. Without it, you're drifting, reacting to life instead of leading it. When you know your why, everything changes. You don't need someone to push you. Your vision pulls you. You don't just survive the hard days, you grow through them. And when things go wrong, your purpose gives you the courage to get back up, because you're not just chasing results. You're living your truth. Think about the people who inspire you, the leaders, the visionaries, the ones who make you sit up and listen. They don't lead with what they do. They lead with why they do it. Purpose isn't found in grand speeches or perfect plans. It's uncovered in moments of honesty. In the times you are moved, challenged, awakened. It's found in your pain, your joy, your contributions to others. Your why isn't something you invent, it's something you discover. You can spend your days grinding, setting goals, and chasing deadlines. You can watch motivational videos, listen to podcasts, write in planners, and set reminders. But none of it lasts if you don't know the reason behind it all. Without a deep, personal, and emotionally rooted why, motivation becomes a temporary high. It gets you started, but it rarely keeps you going. You might wake up one day and feel excited about a new idea, a new goal, a new vision for your life. But a few days later, when life gets hard or distractions creep in, that excitement fades. It's because motivation by itself isn't sustainable. What keeps you consistent, what fuels long-term progress, isn't the rush of starting something new. It's the clarity of knowing why you're doing it in the first place. The truth is, most people don't lack discipline, they lack direction. They're not lazy, they're disconnected. They're not uninspired. They're unsure of what truly matters to them. You can only go so far with willpower alone. At some point, the struggle gets heavy. And if there's no purpose anchoring you, you'll stop. You'll wonder if it's worth it. You'll second guess yourself. You'll feel stuck. And that's the trap so many fall into. They think they're supposed to keep pushing through, even when they've never paused to ask themselves why they're doing it all in the first place. When you lack a why, you rely on circumstances to keep you moving. You wait for good moods, perfect timing, outside pressure, or validation to act. And that's a dangerous cycle, because those things are inconsistent, and life rarely gives you perfect conditions. But when your actions are fueled by a clear, deeply personal why, everything changes. You begin to show up not because someone's watching, not because someone told you to, and not because the world expects it, but because it means something to you. There's an inner drive that kicks in, one that doesn't wait for motivation because it runs on meaning. You're no longer chasing random goals just because they sound good or look impressive to others. You're chasing what aligns with who you are, what you believe, and what you're meant to do. That's when motivation stops being something you look for and starts becoming something you embody. When people operate without a why, they often jump from one goal to the next. They start something, hit a few roadblocks, and then shift to the next shiny thing. Over time, this pattern creates frustration, self-doubt, and a sense of failure, not because they're incapable, but because they never took the time to build a foundation. And that foundation is purpose. When you have a solid why, you're rooted. You can weather storms, setbacks, and slow progress, because even when things don't go as planned, your why reminds you that the journey still matters. It tells you that your effort is connected to something bigger than just the task in front of you. Your why becomes your filter. It helps you say no to things that aren't aligned. It protects your energy from being scattered across too many directions. It clarifies your priorities. You begin to value consistency over chaos, depth over distraction, and impact over image. You realize that success isn't about being busy, it's about being intentional. You begin to measure your progress by how connected you feel to your purpose, not just how many tasks you checked off. You stop living on autopilot and start showing up with presence, passion, and power. So many people chase goals because they think that's what they're supposed to do. They build careers, businesses, routines, even relationships based on what's expected of them, not what they truly want. Then one day they look up and wonder why they still feel empty, why it still doesn't feel like enough, even after everything they've achieved. It's because they built a life on what but never stopped. Explore why. That internal misalignment creates emotional exhaustion. It creates disconnection. And over time, it makes you question whether motivation is even real. But motivation is real. It just doesn't live where most people think it does. It lives at the intersection of clarity and purpose. It lives in the space where what you do connects directly with why it matters. When that connection is strong, you become a different kind of person. You don't need to be reminded of your goals. You don't need constant hype or pressure. You wake up with a sense of responsibility, not the kind that feels heavy, but the kind that feels sacred. The kind that says, this matters, I matter. This work is connected to something greater than me. Imagine walking through a dense fog. You can see a few steps ahead, but everything beyond that is unclear. That's what life feels like when you're moving without a clear why. You're in motion, yes, you're doing things, you're keeping busy. The direction feels uncertain, and without realizing it, you can drift aimlessly for months, even years. Having a why is like turning on a light in that fog. It doesn't always reveal every step ahead, but it gives you enough clarity to move forward with confidence. It provides the direction your life needs, not just for the big moments, but for the daily decisions that shape your future. People spend so much of their energy asking, what should I do next? Or which path is right for me? But those are surface-level questions. The real question that unlocks direction is, why do I want this? When your decisions come from that place, they stop being reactive and start becoming intentional. Your why becomes a compass, a guide, a filter that helps you cut through the noise. It's the internal reference point that allows you to make bold decisions, even when the world doesn't understand them, because you're not living for applause, you're living for alignment. Every day, we're flooded with options, career paths, business ideas, habits to follow, dreams to chase. The problem isn't a lack of opportunity, it's an overload of choices. And without a clear why, you can waste years chasing the wrong goals, not because they're bad goals, but because they're not your goals. You might climb a ladder of success, only to realize it was leaning against the wrong wall. But when your why is clear, you stop chasing everything, and you start choosing what truly fits. You begin to align your energy with purpose, your schedule with meaning, and your focus with impact. A strong sense of why doesn't eliminate obstacles, but it makes them easier to navigate. You know where you're going, so when distractions show up, you're not so easily pulled off course. You can say no to things that don't serve your mission, and that no becomes a powerful yes to your future. You gain clarity not just about what to pursue, but also about what to let go. And that kind of clarity is a game changer. It simplifies your life. It strengthens your boundaries. It protects your mental and emotional energy so you can invest it in what truly matters. Direction is what separates movement from progress. A person can be constantly busy, always doing something, never resting, and still be standing still emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. But someone who moves with intention, someone whose steps are aligned with their why, experiences deeper fulfillment even during slow seasons. The pace doesn't matter as much as the purpose behind the pace. When you know where you're going and why, even the small steps feel significant. It's also important to understand that your why brings clarity during confusion. Life won't always feel clear. There will be days when doubt creeps in, when plans fall apart, when emotions feel heavy. In those moments, your why becomes the anchor that steadies you. It reminds you of your bigger vision, the deeper reason you started, the impact you want to make. It keeps you grounded when the external world becomes unstable. It gives you the courage to pivot, to adapt, to keep going even when the path ahead looks unfamiliar. This clarity of direction also enhances your confidence. When you're uncertain, you hesitate, you overthink, you compare yourself to others. But when your actions are rooted in purpose, you become more decisive. You trust your own judgment because you're not making choices based on fear or pressure, you're making them based on alignment. Confidence is born from clarity, and clarity begins with understanding your why. And when you move with direction, your energy becomes contagious. People are drawn to those who know where they're going. They're inspired by clarity, not chaos. They follow conviction, not confusion. When you operate from your why, you don't just lead yourself, you lead others. Your vision becomes a beacon, a light that helps others find their own way. You don't have to convince anyone of your direction. Your consistency and purpose speak louder than words. When you wake up each day with a sense of direction, life feels different. Your mornings feel less heavy. Your choices feel more empowered. Your challenges feel less discouraging. Because you know that everything you're doing, every habit, every effort, every sacrifice is part of a bigger picture. You're not just passing time. You're building a life. You're not just surviving the day. You're walking a path that matters. There will be days when everything seems to fall apart. Days when plans crumble, when you feel misunderstood, when progress feels invisible, and when your energy is running on empty. Those moments aren't just possibilities. They're guarantees. Life, in all its beauty, comes with setbacks, heartbreaks, failures, and pain. The difference between people who rise and those who stay stuck isn't about talent, luck, or intelligence. It's about whether or not they have something deep inside that gives meaning to their struggle. That something is purpose. It's the reason behind the effort, the mission behind the sacrifice, the story behind the persistence. And it's only when you know your why that you can transform pain into power and struggle into strength. When life punches hard, most people ask, why me? They look at difficulty as punishment, as a sign that maybe they're not good enough or not meant for the journey they started. But when you have a strong why, your perspective changes. You begin to see struggle not as a wall, but as a doorway. You understand that discomfort isn't there to destroy you, it's there to develop you. It's shaping your resilience, sharpening your focus, and revealing your capacity to endure, adapt, and grow. The adversity becomes part of the story, not the end of it. In fact, most people discover their real strength not in moments of ease, but in moments of hardship. The losses, the delays, the moments when you almost quit, those are the proving grounds for personal power. That strength doesn't come from pretending to be okay. It comes from facing the truth, acknowledging the pain, and deciding to move forward anyway because the mission matters too much to give up. And what makes the mission matter is the clarity of your why. Struggle without meaning leads to burnout. It makes you bitter, exhausted, and defeated. But struggle with meaning builds character. It transforms your identity. It turns pain into a path, not a prison. When your why is strong, your emotional relationship with struggle changes. You stop seeing it as something to avoid and start seeing it as something to understand and use. Every difficult season becomes part of your preparation. Every closed door becomes redirection. Every failure becomes instruction. When you're living with purpose, nothing is wasted. Think of people who inspire you the most. Their stories are never free from struggle. In fact, it's often their pain that becomes their power. They didn't become strong because life was easy. They became strong because they had something worth fighting for. Their why carried them through the fire. Their purpose gave them the reason to keep going even when the world said, stop. That's not luck or magic. That's the unshakable energy that comes from living for something greater than comfort. When you face resistance, your why is what keeps your feet moving, not because the road is smooth, but because you've decided that the destination matters more than the discomfort. You understand that the process won't always be pretty. It will test your patience, your ego, your commitment. But deep down, you've already chosen to grow through it. You've accepted that pain can be a teacher, and if you stay open, it can lead to transformation. And that transformation starts by knowing what you stand for and why it matters. There's also something powerful about surviving what once tried to break you. When you come out of a tough season, not just alive but wiser, more focused, and more connected to your mission, you carry a different energy. You speak with experience, not theory. You move with a quiet kind of confidence that only comes from being battle-tested. People can feel that, they respect it, because purpose forged in struggle is deeper than motivation built in comfort. It's the kind of strength that can't be faked and can't be taken away. Even on the darkest days, when motivation disappears and all you have is questions, your why acts like a torch in the night. It's not loud. It doesn't always remove the pain, but it reminds you that there's something on the other side worth reaching for. And that alone gives you the courage to take one more step, even when everything in you wants to stop. Because what you're working for isn't just success, it's impact, it's legacy, it's alignment. And that kind of purpose is stronger than fear, stronger than fatigue, stronger than failure. In struggle, we often learn what truly drives us. We uncover values we didn't know we had, strength we didn't know we carried, and purpose we never bothered to search for until life demanded it. That is the hidden power of adversity. It strips away what doesn't matter. It reveals what does. And once you've tasted the strength that comes from rising through pain for a purpose bigger than yourself, you'll never be the same. You'll know that no matter what comes your way, as long as you're connected to your why, you can endure it. Rise from it and be stronger because of it. In a world obsessed with results, it's easy to get caught up in the numbers. How many followers, how much money, how fast success comes. The danger in this mindset is that we begin to measure our worth solely through external achievements. But the truth is, those who achieve the most meaningful and sustainable success aren't the ones chasing results. They're the ones deeply connected to the process. When you are driven by your why, your focus shifts from needing validation to building value. You stop measuring your growth based only on what's visible and start appreciating the invisible, internal transformation that happens when your actions are rooted in purpose. Purpose builds consistency, and consistency is the foundation of every great achievement. But consistency without purpose becomes mechanical, robotic, and often unsustainable. You can go through the motions for a while, wake up early, work late, push through. But eventually, burnout sets in if the work doesn't connect to something deeper. When you know your why, the work becomes more than just a task, it becomes part of your identity. It's not something you have to do. It's something you choose to do. This shift in mindset is what allows you to show up with energy and intention, even when progress is slow or invisible. This connection to purpose also enhances your sense of fulfillment. Without it, even success can feel empty. You hit a goal, celebrate for a day, and then feel the void return. That's because the goal wasn't connected to something meaningful. It was a trophy, not a milestone. When your goals are rooted in your why, every win feels significant, not because of how others react, but because of how aligned it feels with who you are becoming. It's not just about arriving somewhere, it's about becoming someone, and becoming someone requires intentional action backed by purpose. Discipline becomes a natural byproduct of knowing your why. You don't have to rely on willpower alone. You have a clear reason to say yes to hard things and no to distractions. Your energy isn't scattered across dozens of impulses. It's focused, sharp, and steady. When you know what matters, your calendar reflects it. Your habits support it. Your mindset protects it. You're not just busy, you're deliberate. You stop chasing urgency and start embracing importance. You don't need a perfect routine. You need a purpose-filled one. Another powerful aspect of living from your why is that it helps you handle setbacks without losing momentum. Without purpose, failure feels like rejection. With purpose, failure feels like redirection. You're not crushed by mistakes because you understand they're part of the process. You take lessons from the losses. You adapt, evolve, and keep moving, not out of obligation, but out of deep commitment to your mission. This kind of resilience isn't loud or dramatic. It's quiet, steady, and powerful. It's built on belief that the journey matters as much as the destination. Purpose also strengthens your emotional discipline. When you're disconnected from your why, it's easy to let your emotions take over. One bad day and you spiral. One harsh comment and you question everything. But when your actions are aligned with something bigger than your mood, you become emotionally stable. You don't make decisions based on fear, doubt, or frustration. You make them based on vision. That kind of control gives you power, real power. Not the power to manipulate, but the power to persevere. In the world of personal growth, one of the most overlooked elements is emotional endurance. It's the ability to keep going when inspiration fades and routine sets in. Motivation will come and go, but purpose endures. It keeps your flame alive even when the winds of life try to blow it out. It reminds you that you're not here to live a life of reaction. You're here to live with intention. Purpose-centered people aren't perfect, but they are powerful. They wake up each day knowing they have something worth fighting for, and that alone is enough to keep them in motion. This alignment with purpose also affects how you influence others. People don't respond to perfection. They respond to authenticity. When they see someone walking in purpose, with all the flaws and failures and setbacks, they see something real, and real creates trust. It creates connection. It gives others permission to reflect on their own purpose. In a world full of noise, alignment is magnetic. You don't have to shout or sell yourself. Your clarity speaks for you. Living a purpose-driven life doesn't require grand gestures. It shows up in small choices, choosing courage over comfort, meaning over popularity, direction over speed, and with every aligned choice, you begin to build a life that feels like your own. You stop living on autopilot. You stop conforming to expectations. You start taking ownership, not just of your time, but of your truth. That truth, your why, is what brings integrity to your actions and identity to your journey. Fear is one of the most powerful forces in the human experience. It's also one of the most misunderstood. Most people see fear as a signal to stop, a red light warning them that danger is near. But in many cases, fear isn't pointing to actual danger, it's pointing to growth. It's showing you the edge of your comfort zone, the place where the known ends and the unknown begins. That's exactly where transformation lies. The truth is, when you feel fear about stepping into something meaningful, it's often because you care deeply. And when you care deeply, it means you're getting closer to your purpose. The key is not to run from fear, but to understand it, work with it, and let your why be louder than your what-ifs. Fear shows up when you start asking bigger questions, when you begin to dream beyond your current reality, when you entertain the possibility of becoming someone new, someone better. It whispers lies like, what if you fail? What if people judge you? What if you're not enough? These questions are designed to protect your ego, to keep you safe from embarrassment, rejection, or change. But growth isn't about safety, it's about strength. And strength is built by doing what's uncomfortable, not by doing what's easy. When you understand that fear is a signpost, not a stop sign, you can begin to lean in rather than back away. The people who achieve greatness are not fearless. They feel fear all the time. The difference is that they've trained themselves to interpret fear differently. Instead of treating it like an enemy, they treat it like a compass. If something scares them and also excites them, they take it as a cue that they're heading in the right direction. They don't wait for confidence to show up before they act. They act until confidence is created. This is only possible when you're deeply connected to your why, because it gives your fear a place to exist without taking control. You can feel afraid and still move forward because you know why it matters. When you try to avoid fear, you give it more power. You begin to shrink your world to fit within the boundaries of what feels safe. Your dreams become smaller, your actions become hesitant. Your potential remains locked behind the walls of false security. But when you acknowledge your fear and choose to move anyway, you grow into a new version of yourself. You prove to yourself that fear doesn't define your limits, your decisions do. You realize that courage isn't about the absence of fear, it's about the refusal to let fear decide your future. Purpose acts as a stabilizer in the face of fear. When you're guided by something meaningful, you're more willing to take risks because the outcome isn't just about success, it's about alignment. You're not just trying to win. You're trying to live in integrity with your values, your mission, and your vision. That kind of clarity creates a type of quiet bravery. You may still feel anxious, but you're no longer paralyzed by uncertainty. You become someone who chooses action over avoidance, progress over perfection. Fear often tries to disguise itself as practicality. It tells you to wait for the right time, to gather more information, to prepare a little longer, but the right time rarely arrives. What you actually need is not more time, it's more clarity, and clarity comes from movement. You don't get clear by thinking harder, you get clear by stepping forward, learning, adjusting, and growing through experience. Action dissolves anxiety, motion breaks the mental loop, and purpose gives you the fuel to keep going even when the fear tries to pull you back. One of the most liberating shifts you can make is learning to separate your fear from your identity. Feeling fear doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean you're unprepared. It means you're human, but you are not your fear. You are the person observing it. You have the power to decide what it means and how much weight it carries. This mindset shift turns fear from a master into a messenger. It becomes something you listen to, but not something you obey. And that shift gives you freedom, not from fear, but within it. When you act in spite of fear, you build evidence that you are stronger than you once believed. Every time you choose courage over comfort, you rewire your mind. You begin to develop self-trust, which is the foundation of true confidence. Confidence isn't built through applause or achievements. It's built through small acts of bravery repeated over time. It's built by honoring your commitments, facing discomfort, and showing up even when it's easier to hide. And none of that is possible unless your why is strong enough to carry you through the resistance. Fear thrives in isolation. When you keep your fears hidden, they grow in the dark. But when you share them, name them, and bring them into the light, they begin to lose their grip. Purpose gives you the courage to speak your truth, to admit your doubts, and to find strength in vulnerability. You no longer need to pretend to have it all together. You simply need to stay connected to why you started, and let that connection give you the power to move, speak, act, and grow, even when the voice of fear is loud. We live in a culture that celebrates speed. Everywhere you look, there are messages telling you to move faster, hustle harder, and achieve more in less time. The problem with this obsession with speed is that it often disconnects us from what really matters. When you're rushing through life, chasing outcomes and ticking boxes, you rarely stop to ask yourself the deeper questions. You get caught in the momentum of doing rather than becoming. But real, sustainable growth that changes your character and not just your circumstances, requires intentionality, reflection, and patience. It's not about how fast you go, it's about how aligned you are with your purpose as you move. Clarity is what gives your journey direction. Without clarity, effort can be exhausting and ineffective. You may be busy, but you're not moving in a meaningful direction. You might feel productive, but deep down, you know something is missing. That's because activity is not the same as achievement, and speed is not the same as progress. When you take time to get clear on your purpose, your why, you gain something far more powerful than speed. You gain precision. Every step you take is backed by intention. Every decision is rooted in values. Every action is connected to a bigger mission. And that kind of clarity doesn't just keep you focused. It makes you unshakable. Living with purpose means making peace with the idea that growth doesn't always look like progress. Sometimes it looks like rest. Sometimes it looks like saying no. Sometimes it looks like walking away from something that no longer serves who you're becoming. These aren't signs of failure. They're signs of wisdom. When you know your why, you stop measuring your success by how quickly you're moving and start measuring it by how deeply you're aligned with who you truly are. That shift takes courage because it often requires you to go against the grain, to resist the pressure to keep up with others, and to trust the pace of your own process. Purpose-driven people don't always take the fastest route. They take the right one. They're not chasing quick wins. They're building a meaningful legacy. They understand that their actions today are shaping their future identity. That kind of thinking creates a mindset of patience and depth. Stop asking, how can I get there faster? And start asking, what can I learn right here? The goal isn't to rush through the seasons of life, but to be fully present in them. Because each season, whether it feels exciting or exhausting, is shaping you in ways you may not even realize yet. When you're anchored in purpose, you also become more resilient in the face of comparison. It's easier to look at someone else's success and feel behind, but the truth is you're not behind. You're just on a different timeline. Comparison loses its grip when you realize you're not in a race, you're on a journey. Your purpose is uniquely yours, and your path will reflect that uniqueness. Milestones that matter to you may not look like the ones that matter to others, and that's not only okay, it's necessary. Your fulfillment won't come from matching someone else's pace. It will come from honoring your own. This mindset also affects how you set goals. Instead of choosing goals based on trends or expectations, you begin to choose them based on alignment. You ask, does this goal support the person I want to become? Rather than, will this make me look successful to others? This clarity simplifies your choices. It gives you permission to stop chasing everything and start focusing on what truly matters. Your time becomes more valuable. Your boundaries become stronger. You start creating a life that feels less chaotic and more purposeful. Not because you're doing less, but because you're doing the right things. Purpose also gives you a new perspective on setbacks. When things don't go as planned, instead of falling into frustration, you see it as feedback. You pause. You reflect. You adjust. You ask better questions, like what is this teaching me? Or how can I grow from this? You no longer panic when the path isn't clear, because you trust that your purpose will light the way, even if only one step at a time. That kind of faith isn't blind, it's built through experience, through repeatedly choosing clarity over chaos, purpose over pressure, and depth over distraction. When you're guided by clarity and purpose, your inner life becomes more peaceful. You're no longer reacting to every noise around you. You're not living for likes, applause, or validation. You're living for something deeper, something more enduring. This inner stillness becomes your strength. Allows you to lead yourself well, to stay grounded in uncertainty, and to inspire others not through hype, but through consistency. People begin to trust your energy because they can sense that it comes from a place of authenticity. You're not performing, you're living truthfully. And in a world full of performance, truth is magnetic. There is nothing passive about this kind of clarity. It requires effort, intention, and ongoing reflection. It means slowing down long enough to listen to your inner voice, to align your actions with your values, and to ask hard questions about what really matters. It means being brave enough to let go of what's no longer working and wise enough to build what's lasting. This is the kind of life that doesn't just look good on the outside. It feels right on the inside. And it's available to anyone who chooses to stop chasing noise and start listening to purpose.